Hey, today's video is going to be a little bit different than normal. I thought I would give you a life update as we come to the end of this year. I have been asked by a lot of you how I'm doing because you know that the past year has been really crazy for me. So I thought this was a good opportunity to give you an update, let you know how I'm doing and what I'm going to be focusing on for the next year. I've seen a lot of other YouTubers do these type of videos and I think they can be a really good way to give you a glimpse more into my personal life and how I set goals and find balance and all of those sort of things. So if you like this sort of video, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure I do more of them in the future. I want this video to be positive and helpful for you, so I am going to run you through what happened in the past year just to set the context, but I don't want to focus on the negatives and all the craziness, but I think it's really important that you know what's been happening to understand where I'm going. So for those of you who don't know, the past year has been absolutely crazy. Almost a year ago today, a year and 2 days to be exact, I had a hysterectomy and then I started the process of recovering from that. And pretty much right away while I was still recovering, my partner and I decided to separate. We had been together for over 10 years and we had bought a house about 2 years ago. So we decided to separate and that was super stressful in itself. For anyone who's been through a major separation like that, you know, it's just a huge upheaval. It's a real questioning of who you are and where you're going. And so that was a major stressor in itself. On top of it, though, I had to start thinking about moving overseas because not just was my relationship ending, but I'm originally from Canada and I have been living in New Zealand for about 15 years, but it's actually really hard to find a rental unit here or even in Australia, which would have been where I would have preferred to go. And so I thought I would move back to Canada because it was probably easier to find a place to live. And so I started that process. I started my rental applications. I also started talking to mortgage brokers and my family about coming back. And then all of a sudden I was offered this rental unit, which I had lived in for 8 years prior to buying the house. So that was a bit of serendipity. And honestly, looking back at the year that I've had, I don't think that I could have handled an international move. And I'm just so fortunate that I got this rental unit. That was just a really positive thing that happened in the past year. And so I changed gears from planning to move overseas to planning to stay here, thankfully, and I started packing up and getting ready to move into this unit. Now, during that time, we were getting the house ready for sale. We were negotiating everything as you have to do when you're separating, and that was hugely stressful. I was still recovering from my surgery, of course, because it takes a long time to recover from a hysterectomy. And I was somehow dragging myself out of bed every morning and putting on my best face and going to train my clients and trying to be positive with them and motivate them. And quite honestly, it was hard to get out of bed most days and look after myself, let alone look after other people. And then when I had finished for the day, I had to start packing up my house and getting ready to move. Bearing in mind that I was still sore a little bit from the surgery, and so carrying boxes and packing was another huge stressor on my body. So eventually I got into this rental unit. I didn't have much time to relax because we were still in the process of getting the house ready for sale. And so while I was unpacking here, I was running back to the other house and cleaning and helping getting it ready for sale. And so there just wasn't much time to rest and recover. And I was also starting to train clients again. And of course, throughout this whole time, I've been working with online clients. And so I was just go, 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 go. And thankfully, when we did finally get the house on the market for sale, it sold really fast. So that was another positive thing that happened in the past year. And so then I could start the process of finally recovering and settling Nero into this rental. For those of you who don't know much about cats, they're very territorial, and moving houses with them can be a bit stressful, not just for the owners, but for them, because it's a brand new territory that they have to get used to. So there was a lot going on at that time. And when everything sort of settled, once the house had sold, I was absolutely exhausted. I was finding that I needed 9 to 10 hours of sleep. And when I was getting out of bed, I was in pain that I had never felt in my life. I had some inflammation in my toes and in my hands, and my elbows had really flared up, and I just felt like I had been hit by a bus. And so I just really needed to rest and recover for a long time. And I started that process, and I was just starting to feel a bit more like myself when my mom got sick. This was in about October. And over the course of about 4 weeks, she got more and more unwell, and she eventually passed away. And so that was early November. And so just when I had been starting to feel better, I got hugely set back and went through another major stressor. And so it just felt like this year was just slamming me down and slamming me down and slamming me down. And like, how much can you handle? And that brings us to mid-December, where we are now, where I'm just again starting to feel a little bit better and a little bit more like myself. What I wanted to do now is just quickly give you an idea of where I'm at and how I'm feeling about everything, starting with my health, because that's probably been the thing that's been the most impacted in the last year. Obviously, I've been trying to recover from a surgery for the past year, and having to move houses and carry boxes and push myself so hard hasn't been the greatest for recovering from my surgery. But I was very lucky to have a great surgeon. I felt like I didn't have any pain or any negative effects post-surgery. And in all honesty, having that surgery was really important for the rest of the year, because I don't think I could have gone through everything I went through if I had also been having really heavy periods and very low iron. At least I was able to do what I needed to do without constantly being set back by those heavy periods. So that was a positive of having that surgery. And so health-wise, I definitely feel better because I've had that surgery. And my iron levels are hopefully coming back. I definitely don't have the brain fog and the feeling of low iron anymore. But because of all this stress that I've had over the past year, I've had some lingering inflammation, which I've talked about, and I need to get on top of that. I'm definitely feeling much better. I don't really feel the inflammation in my hands and my feet anymore, thankfully, but I do still have some in my elbows. And I'm hoping that just over the next couple of months, as I rest more and really take care of myself and eat an anti-inflammatory diet, that all of that's going to settle even more. I've also had a lot of exhaustion, and that's just an effect of having so much stress for so long. When you come through a period of stress like that, it's very normal to be exhausted and just feel depleted for a long time afterwards. And so I'm just trying to respect that and just listen to my body, and hopefully over time that gets better as well. But overall, I would say just finally where I am now today, that I'm starting to feel better. I think my health is probably better than it was a year ago, given that I had my hysterectomy. I am going to do some blood work early next year, and I'll do a video on that and update you on everything, including my iron levels then. The other thing I wanted to talk about is my training and what's happened to that over the past year. So with this stress and everything I was going through and recovering from surgery, I obviously have not been able to train as hard as normal. I had to take quite a long time off of training hard because of the surgery and recovery from that. But then I couldn't really push myself when I was going through the separation and the house sale and moving and everything, I just didn't have the energy, and I knew it wasn't wise to push myself very hard during that time. And so in the past year, I've lost some muscle, unfortunately. I have a mesomorph body, so I keep muscle fairly well. I don't feel like I've lost muscle in my legs because they're just so muscular. But I do feel like I've lost some muscle in my upper body, especially in my triceps and biceps. And that probably has to do with the fact that my elbows have been so inflamed over the past couple of months that I don't feel like I can train them hard or properly. And so I've lost some muscle there. However, I'm hoping now that I'm feeling better, I'm starting to be able to have longer workouts. I'm starting to have less inflammation, that I can put that muscle back on. So that's my plan for the next couple of months, is just slowly start building up my training again and really prioritize muscle building, eating well, and hopefully I start to see that muscle comes back on my upper body. Now, I did promise a little update on Nero. He's doing really well. It can be quite stressful to move a cat into a new place, as I mentioned, and he's done amazingly well. He's a pretty curious cat, so he quite quickly explored the new house. The one thing that has happened, however, is that he seems to be afraid to be in high places still. This unit is 2 stories and our other house wasn't, so that's something for him to adjust to, but he still won't go on the highest level of his cat bed, his cat tree, and he still is hesitant to be on tabletops or bench tops or anything like that. So he seems to still have a little bit of a fear of heights, which for a cat is very bizarre. And he's still afraid to look out the front window where you can see the road and the traffic. But overall, he's doing really well, and he's just been a joy to have around during this time. He keeps me going, and we've had a lot of very cozy days in here, just relaxing and recovering. So that's us, that's my health, my training, that's Nero. And what I wanted to do before signing off this video is just talk about next year and what my focus is going to be. Some of you may have read a very old blog post over on my website, femalefitnesssystems.com, where I talk about goal setting and how sometimes it's better to have one big focus for the year rather than set a whole bunch of little goals for yourself. I still set little goals. I still have very clear financial goals, business goals, all of those sorts of things. But I like to give my year an overall focus, an overall guiding idea. And so for me next year, the idea is going to be recharging and refueling and just replenishing my body. And that's going to mean that I prioritize things like resting instead of pushing myself really hard. I make sure that I'm very tight with my work schedule and signing off early in the evening, getting off the computer, making sure that I add in rest days, both from training but from work, and just making that my guiding force for the year. Quite honestly, after the year that I've had, I don't feel like being out and about and socializing and doing any of that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to feel guilty about wanting to be a bit of a hermit this year, because the whole focus of the upcoming year is going to be just looking after myself and recharging. And I'm also going to be making sure that I really nourish myself with the foods that I eat and eat an anti-inflammatory diet so that I get on top of the pain that I've been having, as well as prioritize my anti-inflammatory supplements and my muscle building supplements. So that's going to be the focus of the upcoming year for me. And I wanted to leave you today with a question, and that's, what's your big idea going to be for the upcoming year? Maybe, like me, you need to focus more on recharging. I've certainly heard from so many ladies over the past year who are exhausted, who are going through a lot in their lives as well. And so maybe that needs to be your big focus. or maybe it's something else. But if you're brave enough to share, I'd love to hear in the comments of this video what your big idea is going to be, what you're going to focus on. The final thing I wanted to say is just a really big thank you to all of you who watch my videos here on YouTube, who have left me encouraging messages over the past year. I want to thank all of my clients. I'm so lucky that I get to work with women from all over the world. One of the things that's really sustained me in the past year has been my business and my work, because I am so lucky that I have found what I love to do and I get to do that every day. But I've also realized that I've built this amazing community of women all over the world, most of whom I've never met in person, but who have sent me hundreds of messages of support. And so I thank all of you for being so amazing, because I couldn't have done it without you. So that's it from me today. Hopefully that's the last of the craziness in my life. And the next time I do an update like this, I've got a lot more positive things to say about my year. I am looking forward to a year of resting and recovering and doing plenty more videos for you here on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.